Welcome to the Featured Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rick.
And today we are talking about Chobits, which was my choice, actually, for this week's, which actually really isn't what really wasn't my choice. It was more so Kat's and Jeb's choice from Discord where they were talking about it, and it really got me in the mood to watch it. So I decided to watch it, and that's where we decided to go with it.
It was your choice.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of waifus up there, I believe.
Well, before that, though, we were talking about fast food, and we were talking about
A menagerie of things.
yeah, honestly, it was quite the wonderful mix. So if you want to catch a part of that water conversation, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/featuredanilepodcast, and $1 a month will actually get you that bonus content. Chobits originally aired in April 2002, ran all the way through September 2002. It's 26 episodes long, plus one special, which was like maybe 6 minutes long. Producers for it were TBS and Pioneer LDC. Studio for it was Madhouse. Its source is a manga. And the genres are sci-fi, comedy, drama, romance, ecchi, and Seinen.
Seinen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Took me a second to kind of figure that one in there, but okay.
I mean, like, were you expecting something else?
No, I wasn't expecting Seinen. I'm going to need a list. I'm going to have to get like a list of what these things mean because I feel like we're in The Princess Bride, and I don't think it means what I think it means.
No. Seinen is our manga or comics that are marketed towards adult males.
See, I would see this more juvenile males than yeah. I would see this more of.
Well, the actual verbiage for it is young adult men, but
Okay, that's understandable. Understandable, yes. That is understandable. I agree with that.
so I actually had seen this once before, and I believe this was actually your first time watching it.
Kind of. I've actually seen it before too, but it didn't feel like it. Like when I was looking at it, I've seen 4 or 5 shows that were very similar, and in my head, I kept throwing them back and forth. So it was just a huge mix of things. Yeah, I don't think I ever finished it because it was paced really slowly, in my personal opinion.
It was.
I feel like whoever wrote this out was like, we've got 26 episodes. We're going to do all 26 episodes. And right around episode 20, they're like, oh crap, we're running out. So
yeah, the end definitely did feel kind of rushed, especially when they got towards the end. The protagonist, for me, he really wasn't that likable.
He was goofy. They tried really, really, really hard. And he didn't really have a personality beyond bad at tests, hardworking, diligent country bumpkin. Beyond that, I really don't have really much anything.
So
a lot of emotion just wasn't there, and it felt forced. And just because you say you feel something doesn't necessarily mean you show it.
Yeah. Well, also it feels like he has difficulty differentiating reality from fantasy and truly understanding himself even at that point. And the protagonist, I would also kind of say that he wasn't all there mentally.
He talked to himself a lot, but that
out
it
loud
fits well with his backstory.
Out loud a lot.
Yeah, out loud. But it fits with his backstory of not being around people and being around farm animals and talking to yourself. Sometimes you just need to consult an expert, and that makes sense to me because, I've done it before too, but not to the extent that it becomes a trope where it becomes a comedic crutch, I would say. As far as this was, for lack of a better term, inconsistent as far as the innocence of our main protagonist as well. Because whenever he's around his Chobit, his Chi, which is the name of his Persicon, I think is what they call him.
Yeah, they're called Persicons. Although,
yeah,
I've just how he chose the name just really shows the lack of imagination. It's like, so Chi, all she's saying is Chi the whole time, and he goes, "So what's your name? Chi, huh? I wonder what your name could be. Chi. Well, gee, Chi, I don't know. Oh, you know what? Your name should totally be Chi because that's all you know how to say.
Yeah.
And I do like that they even comment. A couple people comment on it. That's
A dumb name.
that's a dumb name, or that's the kind of name you give a dog.
Yeah.
That you don't really care about. It's like kind of there, and you just hope for the best. It's like, yeah.
And it translates because, again, until the very end, even in the very end, you're like, I don't really feel what they're saying is there. I feel it's very forced. I feel it's very blah. Now, they have opportunities to make good backstories. They have phenomenal opportunities that make no sense whatsoever when they're introduced. The people who are key to the story should have been introduced far earlier. And Senin specifically focused on a younger male population makes perfect sense, considering the very, very close to being inappropriate for TV conversations that are being held. For instance, when he meets a 13-year-old manager, I think is how old she was, 13 or 14 or something like that. One of the first things that our main protagonist does is go, wow, look at her body. And one of the first things she says is, yeah, they're double D tits. And you're like, okay, that's. And before you find out what age she's supposed to be at, you're like, all right, I guess she's just really forward. And then you find out she's in middle school, and you're like, oh, that's not.
No, she's 17.
In high school?
Yeah, she's 17.
Why did they? Maybe their middle school and college school or something like that is different as far as how it's said. But she was not. The way I understood it, which I've been wrong before, the way I understood it was she was not anywhere close to being the appropriate age for anything like that to go down.
Technically, she is of appropriate age, depending on.
Then why do they always mention the age gap?
It's not between her and what's his face, the one manager, the cakes manager. God, what is his name? Mainly because
his name was Manager.
No, his name wasn't Manager. He had an actual name. He just said that he could be called a manager. It was Hiroyasu, blah 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 blah. You know what I'm talking about. Ueda, something like that. Whatever.
Sure.
Anyways, pastry chef dude.
Yeah.
He was like in his 30s, I thought. And that's why they were talking about the age gap.
Oh, see, I thought he was at most 24.
Hang on.
Let
me pull it up.
Hey, there's a character list with ages, isn't there? Somewhere? I
if
never
there's
looked,
an age, I will find it. Hang on.
Okay. I didn't think about it that way because I thought I was pretty rock solid in my numbers.
He is 38 years old.
Dear Lord.
He is 38 years old.
I'd like to redact and retract 90% of what I just said. There's a delete and start over button somewhere. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't. What?
So, anyways, they were talking about the age difference between high school chick and pastry chef and Yumi, or if you want to read it in an English way, Yummy, depending on how you want to do it.
Yeah.
That's why she kept having the issue or the problem, kept bringing up the age gap difference. Like, doesn't it bother you, the age gap and or why he rather kept bringing it up is like, because I'm so much older than you. I mean, like, he is pretty much
okay, so
more than double her age.
Yeah. So again, my point would be brought up valid if he was 24, but he's not. Dear Lord.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes a whole lot more sense. But even still, every time our main protagonist would bump into her boobs, he'd be like, oh, wow, they're soft and warm. And her response was always something like, well, if they were hard and cold, there'd be a problem. And you're like, okay, I don't ship these two because I know I'm supposed to be going for best girl over here in the main protagonist rather than, someone who appears to be thirsty. And then out of nowhere, she's like, no, I really don't like you. I like him. And every woman our main protagonist comes in contact with, and I keep saying that because I keep thinking it's Hitachi, but that's not it. His name. Like I listen to it so often, but the only thing I remember is the H-I in his name.
Hideki
Hideki. That's it. Yeah. So
or Motosuwa. They called him both ways.
yeah,
Hideki or
I
Motosuwa.
didn't get the Matasuo part, but yeah, Hideki. So his interactions with, I'd say, 80% of the women in his life, I was almost willing to think they would end up together, except for the fact of Chi. I'm like, I know that in this anime, Chi is going to be the one that wins out. And then we find out that no, everyone who's supposedly into him is either a robot or Persicon, which includes Chi, but not the one I'm referring to in this particular instance, or somehow tabooly attracted or involved with somebody else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like one of the relationships that you're talking about is in between Shinbo and Takakawa.
yep, student and teacher, yep.
Which I
And
mean,
yet somehow the teacher got drunk in a student's room, and we don't know what happened that night because they both passed out, kind of, sort of. But when they woke up, he was in his boxers and she was in lingerie.
well,
So,
that's how she went to sleep,
yep,
and she
he didn't
told
go to sleep that way
him
though.
no. He went to. She said that he was stripped, or she stripped him down because he looked very hot and uncomfortable.
Sure, yeah, that's why.
Like he,
And
like
she
the
said that he
here,
was average. Go
yeah.
figure.
Like the one thing that they kept pressing through the whole thing was they could not stress the fact enough that Hideki was a virgin. It was a
Yeah,
common,
inexperienced.
yeah, like I get it. He's a virgin, but you don't need to bring it up every 30 seconds or every episode saying that.
Yeah, it was frustrating to a fault. So I don't know. It's just I felt like it was unnecessary how often they would bring that up, and it was just if you're watching the anime, if you got that far into, let's say, the third, he's a virgin, you were there for far before that because the episode they bring that stuff in isn't an episode that's going to hook you.
Yeah.
Isn't an episode that's going to be like, oh, I should totally watch this. I came in the middle of it and I should totally keep going. It was for the people who've been there since they knew him on the farm.
Yeah.
So,
So, one of the things, though, I do find interesting about the series is they really do touch on relationships between people and inanimate objects or computers, especially when they're feeling lonely or they're able to connect more personally with everyone that is a part of that. So, like Takakawa's husband, he completely forgot about her and was only thinking about the Persicon that he had and took that Persicon basically to be his wife. Now, that also really pushes like you don't have to have a sexual relationship to be intimate like that to have that type of connection. However, you do need to maintain those live connections with the people that you are married to and not the computer that you're with.
yeah. And it makes a weird kind of sense, the fears that they've got going on, the situations that they're put in as far as a storyline goes, because that's actually a really common argument for why, for lack of a better phrase, companion robots, why those are so popular in an idea format, because you don't have to deal with the real life person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I could see that this particular storyline eventually would cross over to the point where you'd have people just, hey, I want the best genes available. So I'm going to have my robot find a compatible person and with their robot. And because we've already done adult things with my robot and they've done adult things with their robot, they can incubate a baby by over there by themselves. I don't have to deal with that. It's literally just me and my robot, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that I can see where that would go, where people would start disassociating themselves.
Mhm.
and it'd become a very isolated, very robot-centered, or Persicon-centered, if you will, future. And that's one of the things that I forget her name. Jeez, the high schooler.
Yumi.
Yumi, yeah, Yummy. Yeah, Yumi or Yummy. It's one of the things she was saying, that the more technology is around, the less people see other people.
The
And it
less
goes back
interpersonal connections that you actually have.
exactly. The
And
more connected, it goes back to the phone. If the more connected you are to everybody, the less connected you are to everyone in real life.
right.
Like you
And
can have 100.
Kokobunji even makes this comment. He goes, he tells Hideki, he says, "Don't fall in love with your machine if you don't want to get hurt, because that's a relationship that will never escalate or change beyond that. Like it will forever be like that. So if you have this grander idea of something that'll be a little bit more heartfelt and intimate and not machine like, he's he's basically going to set himself up for a heartbreak because of that. Now, that being said, she is meant to be unique and is supposedly designed and made to be a way so that way they can feel love, so that way they do have that emotion, and it's meant to help further break down that barrier in between what is realistic and synthetic even more.
I get that, but no matter how much you can have a learning AI, for lack of a better word, um, I'm saying that a lot because I don't have better words, but I know there are better words out there. But for a learning AI, you've got severe limitations because unless you have, I would say, a conflict of interest where you have just a conglomerate of knowledge that's shared by every Persicon, which, I mean, what's stopping that from going Terminator on everybody? You'd have three people just ultimately destroy the morale of everyone.
Right.
Like every Persicon out there, just people are bad. These people, unless you have a consciousness that is shared by them all, improving one won't really make anybody grander. And the biggest drawback of having a Persicon that you fall in love with is, as you saw in the very sad backstory of Manager, you've got
Wait, which manager? You refer to a lot of people as manager in this anime.
uh, the pastry manager.
Okay.
The very sad backstory of the pastry manager, where he marries a Persicon only to have them deteriorate in front of them. And it's now, this story was not written well. I want to throw that out there. It didn't hit all the key points. But having someone in my life pass away from Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, I can see how that would be a little bit of you could relate
Yeah.
on a very surface level. But you're because the writing and the characters were so bland, you could imprint on whatever they're doing, which could have been a draw point for this anime. I don't know, but you could have put any number of faces on there to be like, oh, what happened to him, kind of, sort of, in a roundabout way, happened to me in this way, and things like that. You know?
Yeah. No, I get you. And honestly, I have to agree with you. The writing wasn't particularly spectacular. It felt kind of more along the lines of like this is gonna be the flow of it, and we're just gonna make everything work the way it's meant to work. And if doesn't matter what goes on, we'll have a plot persicon here to help protect us from whatever possible plot holes there may be.
But this anime wasn't built on a strong foundation. Plot holes aplenty.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's just one of the biggest plot holes for me, or no matter how much concrete you want to try to throw at it, was if you've got so many Persicons out there, how many unique possibilities could you possibly get? And on top of that, how many potential AIs are out there? Because you've seen, and if every single one is an AI with their own free will, how far away from Terminator land are you?
Well, I would assume not that far, especially if their hard drives are able to deteriorate like that. What's interesting is
Well,
what's interesting is for as far advanced as they are, they make references to cell phones but they never actually show it. And instead, what they have are blocky TVs with blocky handsets that are corded still and not actual
Yeah,
cell
they
phones.
they had RCA cables, the red, white, and yellow, which is now if you ever have been inside of a cable store or a TV store or knew anything about hooking stuff up like I have, RCA cables are reliable
Yes, they are. Very.
but extremely grainy for picture quality.
Yes, they are. So what I also found really interesting is they didn't have game consoles, but they had games. So you had your giant Persicons connect to the DVD player, and that's how you played the game, which was
I just thought about
unique.
something. The Xbox X series. Would you like to have a relationship with your console? Well, now you can. Oh, jeez. For the upgraded price and the monthly payment plan, you can have the Xbox XXX series.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That sounds like something right up your alley there, Brick.
You know, I might be in line for that. I might be in line for that. I have some VR, some some interaction going on. Dance Dance Revolution. I can't dance to save my life, so my score would be really, really low. But I would try, and that's the important part.
That is the important part. As long as you try, as long as there is an effort, that is all that matters.
Oh, dear Lord. Yeah, I can almost visualize it now. After a step with the Kinect, you know how you've used the Kinect before, right? It monitors your entire body and you can see where your hands are and stuff like that.
Well, I mean,
Now,
like roughly, it's not precision technology. Sometimes my hand would be by my head, and it's like you're waving wildly over to the right here. What the hell's going on? It's like, dude, I can't move that. I can't bend my arm that way, no matter what.
I'm just saying, like with me, I do like the power fist or whatever it is to go up and down, and the arm fat would flow with me, so they wouldn't be able to identify when I stopped. So I that's why I get a low score. The skin flaps would be like they'd think I'm a bird flying away. I'm just saying. And then when I do my spin, the stomach still sways after I stop. It's a weird tornado torsion kind of thing. Pop my own back on accident kind of stuff.
Look, anything to help the momentum move along, all right? It's not a matter of you actually running. It's once you get that fat moving, you're just letting the force carry you. You're actually exerting no energy at all.
You're letting the world spin under you. All you do is jump and you're fine. Oh, dear Lord. Yeah. Yeah. Think of Stewie from Family Guy. After he takes those steroids and then deflates and he's able to fly all the way around.
There you go.
That'd be me. That'd be me. That'd be me. Oh, dear Lord. Perfect score. Back fat. Worked out for you.
So, back to what we were saying. One of
Lord.
so back to the game and everything like that. What I have trouble with, and why I brought up the game portion of it, and why they're so archaic. It's like it's one cable, you plug it in, and Hideki even has issues with this. He has issues with the one cable being plugged in. All right.
But is it archaic or is it futuristic? Because back then they did not have HDMI cables.
Well, it's not a matter of them being futuristic. It was the same cable that they had back then. You still had one cable that you could plug in. However, he kept unplugging it and plugging it back into the same slot. It's like maybe it's this slot, maybe it's that slot. It's not hard to figure out. There's 2 slots, maybe 3 at most, and you can't figure it out. You're having this much.
That.
You have this. They had USBs. They had power converters. All that. I'm not saying, but it was 2002, so it's not futuristic. It is archaic because they had a coaxial cable, single cable that they used that has horrible vision, and they still had tube TVs.
So I like where you went with that, and you kind of made my point. And you know how USBs are, right? There's a joke going around, and I fully agree. They're going to take the person who patented the USB. When he dies, they're going to put him in a coffin, take him out, flip him around, put him back, and go, oh no, he was the right way the first time. Turn around, flip him up, again, because that's every single time. You've never once in your life, and if you do, I'm going to call you a liar. You've never once got the USB, plugged it in the first time, and it's fine. You've always had to flip it over and go, nope, that's still the wrong way somehow. And then all of a sudden it works again.
No, I actually pay attention, so I rarely have that issue.
Liar!
It's not my fault you don't know how to pay attention, sir.
I have never once seen anyone in my own life to see. It's like I know that lottery winners exist. I've just never met any. I know this happens to some people. I just never seen it happen.
Well, you're looking at a guy.
I can see you all day. I've never seen you do it.
Okay.
And next time I'm going to laugh my butt off if you're like, hey, Rick, check this out. Click. It didn't work. Crap, flip it over. Still not working. Redo it.
You know, I do it all the time. All right. Especially with my phone.
That's not a USB.
Yeah, it is.
It's a C or it's a lightning cable, and you can flip those things any which way you need to.
But it's USB type C.
Oh, jeez.
That's the standard. Sir.
Yeah.
You're welcome for educating you.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, I still haven't seen you do it. I trust what you're saying because I know you wouldn't lie to me intentionally. That said, I've never actually seen it. Like I said, I know people win the lotto. I've never seen someone win the lotto.
I won the lotto. I only won $1, but I won the lotto. I'd be like...
And technically, I was 2006 People's Person of the Year. Also true.
So, there you go. There you go.
You can take this away as a fun fact. You can actually put that on your resume because that's a legitimate thing that happened. Everyone was listed as 2006 Person of the Year.
So,
yeah.
Back on track. Oh my God.
Sorry.
Okay, back on track.
No. See, what we're doing right here, this is about the pace that the show went. So we're still on track as far as the show's concerned.
True. Sadly.
It wasn't necessarily all over the place, but a lot of stuff in this was unnecessary.
It was. Also, I felt a lot of Hidekis' reactions and how he was acting was unnecessary or honestly a little aggravating.
I mean, I could see that. If it was not a bingeable show, I don't see myself sitting through this stuff. And even still, like, so when you first sit down to watch it, I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, this is actually not bad. Like, this is very reminiscent of the art style of Pokemon. Like, I felt like this was Brock, kind of, sort of, but that art style spoke to me. I'm like, this is nostalgic for me. And then watching it, I'm like, okay, I've seen this. This reminds me of Dear S. This reminds me of a few less reputable titles that I've seen before. And then it gave me a Tenchi Muyo vibe to it, where I remember watching it without clearly remember watching it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Up until a certain point, up until episode, I think, 22. And that's kind of where it lost me for a bit. I had to step away because it didn't make sense. And I couldn't make it make sense. And I remember walking away before as well, frustrated. Although now, because of our podcast, I powered through it. But this is not going to be a top 10 for me at all. But
no,
you're right. But I will say it's not all bad. Like they had this is perfect for lack of ingenuity. They had like 4 or 5 beach episode quality episodes back to back. Nothing to move the story forward. And I felt like I probably could have skipped them, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, to say the least. Definitely. There were a lot of episodes that were like that, where it just kind of felt like they were there. It didn't really move the story along, and they were meant to be a filler. And I don't know if the mangas were even like that too.
Well, I mean, we've got old Jeb here who's able to vouch, and he says they were pretty close. But
let's say for a couple of points, but typically what happens is with fillers, they kind of veer off, try to maintain that tide of the story, and then come right back and continue along the story for the source material to come up, or to
catch up.
Yeah, or fill in the reason as to whatever that may be as to why.
Have you ever seen? Well, obviously you have, because if you haven't, you need to. Have you ever seen Full Metal Alchemist?
Yes, both of
I was
us.
just dumb question. Okay, yeah. No, I was going to ask you again. Have you seen Brotherhood?
Yes.
Now the story behind them. Now it's one of my top 10. Like, I was asked in the chat earlier in the week, I want to say, what my top 10 were, and I'm kicking myself because I want to change it, but I want to stick to my principles. I want to not be like one of those. Oh, I'll edit the back so it looks better for me. But I should have put in there Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because while they're both from the same source material, Full Metal Alchemist actually caught up to the manga as it was coming out. And they kind of went ahead and changed a bunch of stuff with the director, with the author's approval. Like, the author was there, very similar to Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
where they caught up to the source material, but with the director and the author in the same mindset, we're able to move forward in what I personally believe is a phenomenal and excellent representation of what should happen in any time this source material catch is lacking.
Right.
Um,
And I agree, but I don't think they had that problem. I don't think they had that problem with this though.
yeah, I feel like it was already there. Like I said, it felt like it was going to be 26 episodes. Like, they already had a storyboard lined out. It just feels like they ran out of time when they should not have. In the last, I want to say, 10 episodes, they had 3 main stories that would have flawlessly gone together if spaced appropriately.
Right. Well, what's interesting is I don't think you saw it, but the episodes that were cut out, we were talking about how the numbers were wrong in Funimation, how the those numbers are actually pretty correct and accurate. The reason why they're actually numbered incorrectly, it's because they decided to omit and remove all the fillers, or not the fillers, but the
Really?
recaps. So there was 9, 18, and like 27, I think it was, or something like that. Or
Yeah.
20, whatever. They call them
Yeah.
0.5s after it. So
Okay.
it was like 8.5, 16 or 17 or something like that, 0.5. And it was just recaps. And it was a recap between, so like the first one was between Shimbo and his Persicon, and talking about what had happened during the story, gave a little bit of their thoughts behind it. And then it was between Yuzuki, the Persicon for Kokobunji, and they were talking about like everything going on with Chi and what's happening with them, and giving their recap. And then there was like one final one, which is between the landlady and Kotoko. No. Remember the little tiny Persicon with the bells on the head?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, between the two of them, talking about everything that had happened, which is basically them waiting on the test results for Hideki.
So what I thought was kind of, well, I saw them, but I didn't realize what I was looking at because I went to YouTube. While Funimation had them all flawlessly, I had to download them like before so that I could have service to watch them.
Right.
So thankfully, YouTube did not miss out on those extras, but they didn't label them as extras. So I kind of watched them on accident, I guess would be a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But that could be why I feel like there was too many fillers.
Maybe.
Because, yeah, it felt like the recaps were spaced sporadically. Because it was like from episode 1 to 13, and then from episode 13 to 17, then 17 to 20, and then 21 to 26, and then an extra 27th. And you're like, that 27th should probably be closer to 19, but okay, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
You probably could have watched the fillers, the recaps, and been perfectly fine with all the setup, if I'm being honest.
True.
And we're not even talking about like the surprise people that showed up in the latter portion and served no function whatsoever other than being plot devices that never panned out.
Well, honestly, everyone in here is a plot device, and nothing ever really pans out for anyone in this. It's a cute show. All right, it's a cute show. It's good for at least a once through. One of my favorite characters is definitely Chi, simply because she's adorable. She's adorable.
Yeah.
In general. So you can't go wrong with the main character of Chi. However, you could totally write out Hideki and you'd be perfectly fine. Maybe have someone else take his place. Someone that's, in my opinion, be less annoying.
I don't know if you could, only because if you wrote out Hideki, how would that plot work? Like the whole plot was him
Being an
becoming
idiot?
somebody. The whole thing was about him eventually becoming someone lovable.
Well, he's not someone lovable though. He was not anyone lovable.
They tried.
They tried hard.
Like good effort, but no.
No. Okay. So all that being said, we could continue to go on for a while on this, but I think this is a good spot for us to round up. So on a scale of up to 10, sir, how would you rate it?
So to refresh my memory on our rating system, 5 is middle of the road. You'd watch it once, right?
Yeah, it's average. It's average.
Okay.
5 is.
I would say that the storyline. Before we continue, do you remember when this was produced? When it was thrown out there?
2002.
Oh,
That's why I had a problem with the technology.
I was thinking 94, 97.
No.
Okay, never mind. I was going to say it's got to be at least a 6 only because of the timeline if it was a 97 product, because it set forth the idea or the storyline that many people have copied. However, my timelines have been wrong. I want to throw that out there right now. You know that they have been very wrong.
Usually are.
But I think that this is actually a cookie cutter version of a story I've already seen, possibly Dear S, of man loves machine, a taboo thing, but he doesn't care kind of situation. If it was the first one, I'd say, yeah, you totally have to at least give it a shot. However,
Dear S came out after this.
No joke.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Actually, so yeah, in that case, 6.
Okay.
Right. I was going to give it a 4 because I thought Dear S came out before it, but as I would say, pioneer of sorts for this type of storyline, I think it's worth watching. Only because the animation quality is not bad. It does have some funny points in it. There are a few things that I liked about it. There's a few things I really did not like about it. However, if you were just to watch episode 1 through 3 and episode 19 through 26, it's a good story.
Okay. In
my opinion. So I'm going to give it a 6. Something that I'd watch once with a friend.
Okay. I'm going to give it, I'm going to go just a smidge lower. I'm going to give it a 5.
All right.
And the reason why I'm giving it a 5 is because you know me and my absolute hatred of dumb, open-ended endings like this, what this gave us. It didn't give us a resolution. It didn't resolve anything it set out to resolve other than the fact that he is in love with a Persicon. Yeah. And that's it.
I would have absolutely adored the fact if they made it a father-daughter love kind of situation. Not in the taboo kind, but realizing there's no future with this Persicon. You are my one person. Fantastic. You are my one daughter.
Now, that is not to say that it is a good series. It is a good series. It is definitely worth the watch. It is enjoyable. And even though I don't care for the animation and Hideki all that much, she is a staple and she will forever be one of my waifus. She's adorable. She is absolutely adorable. She's the only reason why that I'm not going with like a 3 or 4.
You know what I'd also like to say real quick? We didn't talk about the voice actors. I thought it was spot on.
They were both English and dubbed, I thought.
Yeah.
English and sub. Both of those. English and dubbed and subbed. I felt the voice actors were spot on for it. I enjoyed it perfectly.
Like they did a good job with that. I've seen similar ones where they didn't, and it's visible, but the voice acting did not take me out of the situation.
Right.
The voice acting was not one of the things that I was like, oh God, no. And it helped the story move along. So even the side characters that really weren't important or even had like 1 or 2 lines for the whole series, that you like that character A and B of class 2 whatever, I felt like even those were good.
So, well, that's all the time that we have for today. Hope you enjoyed this week's choice. Uh, you believe though that your choices for next week.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Um, so my choice for next week is actually a little bit of a cop out, if I'm being honest. Um, while I while I was frantically looking into the movie genre, because I feel like I haven't seen a few good movies outside of Studio Ghibli, and I desperately want to see a good movie other than Studio Ghibli. Because, in my opinion, Studio Ghibli, while fantastic and wonderful, it's just too far in the fantastical realm for me. It deals with storylines that I'm not familiar with, things I didn't grow up with, kind of thing, you know? So, the movie that I chose um, just so happens to be Restore the World. Now, I'm going to butcher the first part of the name, but it's Garakawa, something like that. It's Restore the World. And I really liked it. I really liked the art that the cover sheet came with, which is
Okay.
kind of why I chose it. It's very similar to choosing a book because of the cover.
Okay. All right. Well, hope you all enjoyed this week's choice. And feel free to reach out to us if you feel like we hit everything, we missed stuff, did it justice, didn't do it justice, we just got everything wrong. We're a couple of morons and we just don't know what we're talking about. Feel free to reach out to us, featured anime podcast at gmail.com. At those anime guys on Twitter, Featured Anime Podcast on Facebook. You want to buy some merch, store.featuredanimepodcast.com. It really would help us out. Or if you want to catch some of the pre-content that we usually talk about before every episode, patreon.com/featuredanimepodcast. $1 a month will get you there. And until next time, I'm Jack.
And if I'm lucky, you will even see a Persicon of me and my Adonis back fat. I'm Rick, and we'll see you next time.